Welcome to another episode of African Couch Potato, the mashup with your host, Juno Shedile. Today I'm not alone. I've got an in-studio guest and her name is Amo Helang, but she goes by Amo Helang without a surname, just like Madonna. Hello, Amo.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Talk us through your name.
It was branding. It was for branding purposes. And also, when I was in high school, a lot of my teachers used to botch my surname. So it started to annoy me. And also, like, the second part of my name is Helang. And Helang is like a Sotho expression, like surprise, whatever. So I was like, just brand it. Because, like, I'm a huge surprise.
What is your surname?
Hlakotsa.
Amo Helang. So today, basically, what we're going to be doing is shifting things up, mashing things up a bit differently. So everything is going to be about Amo Helang. We're going to have her top 5. We're going to have a review either of a film that she's done, and if she hasn't done her homework, I'll take over. And then lastly, she'll tell us about her favorite movie of all time. Are you ready?
I am here.
You're not feeling shy?
Anxious.
It's good enough. Let's get straight into the top 5. Amo, what is your top 5?
My top 5, guys, I couldn't narrow it down. I even had to call a friend of mine just so she can remind me of things that I may have forgotten about. So I have a bunch of things that I've listed. And then, you know, I'm a very instinctual person. So as and when I feel the need to pick one from my list, I'll say it. But the first one on my list, obviously, because it's recent and it's still, I think it got Emmy nominated, is Succession. Thing was absolutely brilliant. I was obsessed with Obsession, still am. Just like the scripting, how it was shot, the storyline was absolutely amazing. I loved it. So just after Succession, I do have Avatar. Avatar is a non-negotiable. I absolutely loved Avatar. I'm a big fan of like human story. And it actually took me a while to recognize what the metaphorical sort of narrative was in the movie. And as soon as I got it, I couldn't stop watching. So Avatar 1 and 2.
Okay, so now you've got 3 options where they either have to be like really nice movies or pro-black. Because also I know people can't see this, but
I knew it.
You walked in here looking like half of Wakanda. You've got like a black beret on. It's like Black Panther all over again. Then you say Avatar.
There were so many things that I considered coming into this place. I thought about how I dressed. I thought about the movies that I picked. And literally, as I spoke to my friend, I was like, I need to have black options. Otherwise, I just seem like that girl. So I'm going to skip right along. Also, I'm not understanding the shade.
No, there's no shade. You can skip.
You're like shading.
But if there was shade, it would be very dark.
Okay. Oh my God. I have to perform. Okay. I really liked She's Gotta Have It.
Yes,
The
that's a good one.
reboot,
Yeah.
Spike Lee's one. I think it was on Netflix for a while. I'm always looking for ways to just see how like Black women navigate the world.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of that in watching series. She's Gotta Have It, Sex and the City, etc.
Speak about Sex in the City. How do you feel about the openness of on-screen sex these days? Like people being less shy to show boobies, to have almost full-on sex scenes. Does it irritate you? Not so much. You don't care?
It's still, it's always going to be uncomfortable to see. I mean, I love the agency around it and sort of the way that we've moved from hiding to where we are right now, but it's still very uncomfortable. I think there's a tasteful way that this local production did it, the recent one, Fatal Seduction, did it very tastefully, but it was still like, oh my God. So I suppose it says something about our relationship to sex and intimacy. But it's just, it's a touch and go situation. How do you feel?
I actually hate it. But it's fine because you're the guest here. With Fatal Seduction also, I feel like they overdid it.
Okay.
And how I say they overdid it is because they had so many sex scenes that I feel were not warranted.
Yeah.
So it's okay to say, I want to bang that guy. I want to give it up. We kind of get what you want or the intention of it. But to show us every single scene full on, I think it also takes away from the imagination.
Right.
I've heard from some of our female followers that it's better to read a book because you can still imagine. And there's certain ways that you would have liked that sex scene to turn out as opposed to having been shoved down your throat.
I'm so glad you're saying that because you just reminded me of something that I also recently saw on Apple TV. And it's very much just fully based on your imagination. So it's like a podcast, but it's a TV show. It's called Calls.
Okay.
And it's basically just telephone calls between people and then there's some supernatural occurrence that's happening in the background. But I watched it with my partner, and I said to him, it's insane because everything that happened in our imagination. They didn't have to overfeed us or overstimulate us with like imagery, and we have to imagine a person floating. We did that for ourselves. So I totally get what you mean.
So it's audio.
Yeah. There's no visuals. It's just the telephone lines. And then you just hear the conversation between. It's insane.
You watch it on Apple TV.
You watch it on Apple TV.
So you just see like those signals.
And you just listen to these people freaking out. It was a crazy story. But I only watched episode 1 because it started to feel I got a little bit in my head about it, because I imagined everything so vividly.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Please check it out. Calls.
Now that we've gotten your review out of the way, back to the list. Number 4
spicy.
is...
oh my God. There's something else that I thought about as soon as you spoke about imagination. But I also remember something that I watched on Netflix. I'm so bad at this. I didn't do my homeworks. Okay, I'm going to go back to my list. Big fan of Waiting to Exhale. It's another extension. I'll tell you why. Don't pull that face.
No, I'm listening.
Waiting to Exhale only because of the soundtrack. Sometimes I feel like I will like a movie or I'll gravitate towards a movie because of the music and how the songs told the story more than the actual script or the plot. So I really love the soundtrack to Waiting to Exhale. I really love the soundtrack to Interstellar.
Yes.
Interstellar was brilliant. It's one of my all-time favorites that I watch over and over again. But I suppose that gets me to 5.
You only have one worthy entry, and I think She's Gotta Have It.
That's not fair.
And then the other one was Waiting to Exhale. That's with...
The lady with the great arms, Angela Bassett. Angela Bassett.
I would know that she's got great arms.
Like that. Angela Bassett is in it. Whitney Houston is in it. The other lady with the really... cute voices in it. I just forgot their names, but it's a great movie.
So I want to go back to calls because now I'm intrigued. So what you're seeing on screen, and this is now maybe something we must leave for our review section, which is coming up next. So earlier on, you mentioned Calls, which is on Apple TV, but it's just a dialogue between two people over a phone line. And all you're seeing is just like the signals or like the frequencies spiking and whatever. You don't actually see these people.
You don't see the people.
You don't see hands holding phones.
Nothing. And it's 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes an episode. So the first episode was, a guy and a girl almost breaking up. And then he calls his current girlfriend. They're in a long distance relationship. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, while you're watching it, actually, the reason why I watched it because I wanted to try something new. But the reason I stuck around is because I thought eventually we'll get to see them. I thought, it'll eventually illuminate into faces, but it didn't. So it's this guy and this girl who are in a long distance relationship. He was supposed to break up with her, but he didn't. Something happens with her where she sees some strange thing outside. Then his current girlfriend calls him, and then it gets so crazy, but it builds up to such an interesting little image thing that's happening in your head.
How do they introduce the current girlfriend calling him? Is it like a three-way call now, or does he hang up?
No, he hangs up because remember the current girlfriend who's in a different state says that she sees something outside and she's panicked.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get off the line. I'll call you back in a moment. Okay. But remember, they were having a really tense conversation about why he wants to break up with her. Then he calls his current girlfriend, and then she's like, no, you need to break up with her. You know what? That's another thing that sort of kept me around because I'm like, okay, what's actually going to happen here?
So the girl was just waiting for the boyfriend to end it with...
Yes. And then she says to him, so they essentially work together. She says to him, as your boss or as your manager, I command you to break up with this girl. And then, they hang up, and then she goes back and calls the current girlfriend, and he's like, dude, like, are you okay? And then that turns into a whole thing because she's panicking, and this crazy creature that we eventually find out is not a human being, is coming closer to the house and is about to attack her. Then his current girlfriend calls him, and she's like, oh my God, I was babysitting, I lost the baby. And then there's this really crazy moment. It's insane. And I hate that I'm giving away the entire plot, but
no, it's fine.
There's a moment where, so the current girlfriend was babysitting, and then she calls him back and she says the baby's missing. And then she says to him, I'll find the baby and I'll come over, right? And then he goes back to I might be mixing stories up, but he goes back to the lady he's supposed to break up with. And then a couple of minutes later, he goes back to the current girlfriend and he says to her, no, I'm in the kitchen, I'm making tea. And she says, okay. And he's like, yeah, I'm coming back to bed now. And she's like, but I'm not in the bed. And he's like, what do you mean? There's a woman in my bed. Who is that? It's crazy. It's so crazy. And you're imagining this whole thing happening. She's like, no, I'm not there though. What are you talking about? And she's like, okay, so what is going on? Because there's a woman in my bed and I just made love to her and she arrived at the time that you said you weren't going to get here. And then it turns into this whole like...
Also, that's a red flag. If you're making love to somebody you assume is your girlfriend.
I mean, it's a body.
What do you mean it's a body?
No.
Surely you know what your partner feels like.
I mean, that's what he's saying, though. And that's the thing. Because they're not overfeeding us with information. There are just like loopholes that we have to fill out for ourselves. So it's really just like you thinking maybe he's cheating. Yeah. But I'm thinking maybe it's an alien. Because the episode seems like it's like based on supernatural sort of occurrences. It ends with everybody just floating because the world is ending.
Okay, let's do some paid promo that we're not going to get paid for. Apple TV, you subscribe to that?
I am.
Whew. And in rands, how much is it?
I'm on a family plan.
Okay. That sounds like about 150. Something you should have when you have a partner.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. I'm very intrigued by this. That's why I keep coming back to it, because I've never thought about just watching. It's almost like watching static. There's nothing that you're seeing.
Can I tell you, just on that note, after watching that, I was like, imagine if you put something like that in the theater. Do you know what I mean? Because I come from a theater background.
Yes.
And I directed a show once that I imagine at the time was quite alternative to what the theater landscape was. So it was mostly a physical theater piece. There was no script and it was just like sticks and bodies, right? And we were telling a story about identity. So when I watched Calls, it really inspired me because I thought, imagine if we completely removed the visual sort of story or the visual narrative and we just allowed for people to play with their imaginations and to listen, you know. In the previous podcast that I was on, I did speak about how listening is a lost art. And it's one of the reasons why I got into podcasting is because, you know, it's like listening is a thing. So I thought, what if I put something like this in the theater? So, because you go into the theater and you think, okay, we're just going to see, you know, a story about Zarafina, whatever the case may be. But like, imagine you walk into a theater and it's just audio. You know what I mean?
I don't think it would work.
I think it would work.
Now that you've successfully hijacked the podcast, I don't even know what segment we're in now because you started with your top 5. You went into a review. We're supposed to go to your favorite movie of all time, and then I realized that we missed out on the introduction.
Okay.
So let's backtrack a bit. You are on a podcast, but you're also a podcast producer.
Yes.
Holistically, what is it that Amo without a surname does?
Can you not? Oh my God. So I have my 9 to 5 where I currently work as a social media manager for an NGO that's based in the Eastern Cape. So I work remotely. I also work as a podcast producer for an agriculture podcast. I've obviously done social media management. I've dabbled in acting. I've dabbled in radio. But most people would just say I'm a creative. I would call myself dynamic. I'm also just at a point where I'm just using my skills to my advantage. I'm not necessarily at a point where I'm like fixing my resume and sending it out to companies. I think I'm just at a point where I'm like sort of building my own career and sort of curating a life for myself that speaks to who I am and what I enjoy doing.
You mentioned listening as a lost art, right? When you watch movies, do you have that top of mind? Are you kind of like listening out to theme songs, compositions, to how people speak, if they're getting the accents right or not?
I'm prone to that kind of thing. I won't lie. There was a time actually where I was comparing the pace at which South African actors speak and the pace at which Hollywood actors speak. It's very different. South African actors tend to swallow their words. And I know this because there is no voice training on set. I'm not coming for the industry. I'm speaking of my experience. There's no voice training.
Yeah, this is sponsored by the National... I'm joking. Carry on.
So there's no voice training on set. And so what happens is that they swallow their words, and half the time I find myself gravitating towards subtitles more than listening to what they're saying because I cannot hear them for the life of me. In Hollywood, I obviously haven't been to Hollywood, but I imagine that there's just a lot more sort of training and preparation that goes into series and movies where I feel like I can hear them better. The pace is better. There's a breathing, there's a tone, and each scene sort of holds that specifically to what the scene is trying to communicate.
Yeah.
Whereas here, we tend to plateau quite a bit. So I'm prone to, I'm prone to like soundtracks. I love soundtracks.
Yeah.
Scripting is very important, but also I've just become aware of pace.
Yeah.
And I think we're just, it's something that we've lost.
I think that's the role of more of a casting director. I think what happens here is that there's a lot of typecasting that happens where people will write a role for you. So without picking on anyone, if you're looking for like funny white man who likes being outdoors, you're going to go for Leon Schuster. You understand? You're not going to go have like, you can have open editions, but I'm always of the assumption that people already know what kind of person they want based on roles that they've previously played. Secondly, and I don't know if this is an industry thing, I don't want to call it a problem, but a challenge is a lot of the time when you have an industry like television, it is a lot. It's like a big beast that you have to feed. So you've got your telenovelas on TV, you've got your series, but then there's also gaps. So what happens between this series ending and another one? So you have to fill that up at a furious pace.
Exactly.
And you'll find actors sometimes working on 2-3 roles at a time. So you'll be watching Mubango and you see someone like Sparky's on, I don't know what it's called.
Isn't it a series on ETV?
Yeah, it is a series. Is it on ETV? I'm not sure if it's on ETV, but it's on one of those channels, right? Then he was also on The Estate, which was on S3. Then he did an animation called Super Team 4, where he was doing voice. And like you can basically find all of his work on the same day. Like on different platforms, you understand? So I can imagine his life on set is that he'll be shooting here for like 2 days, then he goes somewhere else for 1 day, then back there for 2 days. So is there an opportunity, or it doesn't really leave much time for you to actually direct the cast and to do things like, in as much as we do have vocal trainers, but they're limited to VO.
Okay.
You understand? If you're like a voice talent.
That's true.
Whereas with acting, I know I'm all over the place, but just to summarize, Queen Son, which was like our big break into Netflix Africa.
Thoughts?
You had Queen Son. Well, it did what it needed to do, and that was just open the industry in the sense that it was our first Netflix Africa production.
Okay.
My only requirements was you have to have somebody to pull off the role, right? Crawl so that other people can walk.
Okay.
So you have Pearl Thusi,
yes,
right? You're expecting her to be multilingual. You're expecting her to be a combat artist and fight. You're expecting her to have nice pooky boobs while she has sex. And you're also expecting her
pulling my face.
and also expecting her to act at the same time.
Right.
It's a lot.
It is.
It's really a lot. So I feel like even though it wasn't the best storyline, it did what it needed to do. And sometimes you have to give some grace to that. So okay, fine. All Queen Son was supposed to do was just open up so that we can have productions on Netflix.
That's a good point.
After that, Blood and Water came out, which was much better.
Yeah. Did you like it?
I did a lot. How to Ruin Christmas, I still like. All 3 of them. Then there was Fatal Seduction, I hate with a passion.
I have a question. What do you think of this idea that like South African films or television series are mostly around like crime and like, hood life and thug life? Do you feel like we need to expand on our genres a little bit more? Do you feel like we're in a good place in terms of what kind of content we're producing?
For me, it always goes to who's funding it. Like if you're going to look at Latino films, there'll always be a beautiful Filipino lady. There's always going to be a story of the madam of the house sleeping with Miguel, who's the pool boy. There always has to be some song, some dance. If you go to Brazil, it's either soccer. So whoever funds your movie tends to dictate the audience for it. I feel like if we were funding our own movies, they would be much more different. But if, for example, you have a European and they're coming here to film Shaka Zulu, what they're going to tell us is their interpretation of what the Great Warrior is like. And that's why if you look at Shaka Zulu, the first one with Henry Cele, it's more historical, right? It says this is where he was born, this is his mother, this is how the white people came, this is how they sold the nation for a mirror and hair dye. If you look at Shaka Ilembe, it's more of a celebration because Angus, Desiree Makraf, the people from Bomb Productions are so used to local television that even if it might be historically inaccurate, it's still entertaining and it's about celebrating the man. And that's why I feel like this new age Shaka Zulu people were being overly harsh on because they were like saying,
Really?
yeah, they were saying there's too many sex scenes, fine. But then they were also saying it's historically inaccurate. They were saying that people didn't wear such regalia.
Yeah, but don't you think there's a danger to that though?
Not really, because it's not positioned as a history book. You understand? The interpretation of Shaka Ilembe, and it's in the byline or the description of whatever you're watching. Shaka Henry Celewane says it's a biography of a great Zulu warrior.
Right, okay.
So it must come across as a biography because
Right.
literally the guy was writing it down as he was experiencing Ushak.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, Shaka Ilembe, is a story of greatness.
Okay.
So it already says to the audience that here we just want to be about flamboyance, greatness, how perfect this man was. It doesn't have to be a historical account.
That's interesting because I've also just been like, and maybe it's because I've seen glimpses of Shaka Ilembe. I haven't watched the full thing, but I'm also just like interested in more joyful representations or depictions of Black stories. You know what I mean? I feel like you have something to say, but I don't I don't necessarily feel like, and it's not just like for television and movies. I feel like even online, the narrative right now is the algorithm is very sort of focused on negativity. And I say that tentatively, but I say it truthfully also. So I'm just sort of curious about like more joyful historical depictions of our people.
Okay. I did say that you have hijacked the podcast, so now we can't be sticking to our normal format. I think what we're going to do is that we're going to hold it for now. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. We're going to come back as a part 2 and we're going to continue with this conversation. Where can people find you on the socials?
So Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Look out for my weekly articles on LinkedIn. Amo Amplified on Instagram. Amo Helang on Facebook. Amo Helang Rakadi Cool on Twitter. And just Amo Helang on LinkedIn.
And that is a wrap for today. If you want to get in touch with us, you are more than welcome to go to Instagram at African Couch Potato. You can DM us, you can follow us, you can share the content that we are posting on there, and you can expect, as usual, new episodes every Monday of African Couch Potato, the mashup with me, Gino Shedile, and I'm going to close it right there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's bye for now.
Thank you.